As promised, Part 2, the Erika Kirk Nicki Minaj connection and a match made in heaven. I'll explain why in a minute. But before I say anything else, understand this. When you talk about Nicki Minaj, you are talking about someone who has publicly defended and protected convicted sex offenders against minors. That includes her husband, as well as her brother, who was convicted of raping an 11-year-old. Nicki's fans online like to mythologize Nicki, turning her into some highly intelligent, spiritually elevated woman, when the reality is far from the truth. Because her husband is nothing to be proud of, they've created a narrative that she's with him for protection. The idea that Nicki Minaj is married to Kenneth Petty for protection, in the sense of him being some high-level street or underworld power figure, doesn't actually line up with how power works in real criminal hierarchies. But to understand this, you'd have to have some sense of the street world and at least an ounce of street smarts. People at the top of drug networks or organized street operations are defined by one thing above all else: distance from exposure. They do not personally commit violent acts, they do not handle day-to-day dirty work, and they do not repeatedly place themselves in situations that lead to incarceration. When someone is consistently in and out of jail, that almost always indicates low-level or poorly insulated involvement, not elite status. In real criminal structures, high-ranking figures rarely touch anything that could tie them directly to a charge. They use layers, runners, intermediaries, and expendable associates, precisely so they can remain insulated from law enforcement. Arrest, parole violations, and public criminal records are markers of exposure, not power. The people who get arrested are the ones closest to the action. Those who are truly powerful stay invisible. Also, I actually asked around to see if his name holds any weight in NYC, and it doesn't. The only weight it carries is his association with Nicki, which most people assume means she has high-level protection due to her celebrity status. Because of that, most people won't touch him because of her, not the other way around. Petty, who is a registered sex offender, was filmed on Instagram Live making a series of threats toward Offset, behavior that ultimately resulted in him being placed on house arrest. That's a clown behavior. That is not the behavior of a cold, calculated, high-level street figure. That is hot-tempered, impulsive behavior. People who actually have something to lose, especially those with real standing in the street world, do not record themselves on corners making empty threats online. That alone tells you everything you need to know. These rumors about street protection need to stop. If he's protecting her at all, it's likely limited to a physical, in-person role, more bodyguard than anything else. There is no evidence of any deep or influential street connections offering that kind of protection. So when people claim she married him for protection, what they're really doing is projecting a mythologized version of street power that doesn't match reality. It's far more consistent with the facts that this relationship is personal, emotional, or rooted in history rather than strategy. From a practical standpoint, the marriage has created legal, reputational, and logistical complications for her, not advantages. I also happen to hold the opinion that Nicki Minaj is extremely pick-me, in the sense that she feels the need to be married to someone, anyone, so that she can publicly claim she's married, regardless of how broken or problematic the man may be. According to her own interviews, she comes from a household where domestic and sexual abuse was a part of her reality growing up, so being married to a convicted sex offender doesn't seem to register as a red flag for her. I also believe her self-esteem is so low that she seeks out partners who are weaker or more dependent than she is, ensuring that they will always need her. It's a way of asserting control and compensating for her own unresolved issues, a reflection of what I call a masculine wound. I explore women like this in my masculine wound video, linked in the description box, which I highly recommend checking out. In essence, women with this pattern often repel truly masculine men, so they end up scavenging for the ones they can dominate. This dynamic gives them a sense of power, but it's rooted in deep insecurity and unresolved trauma, rather than genuine empowerment or healthy partnership. She lacks emotional intelligence. No matter how accomplished a woman may appear on the outside, and no matter how conventionally attractive she is, it's her inner emotional intelligence that ultimately dictates the type of man she will attract, and more importantly, retain long-term. Some women may be fun to play with for a time, but men naturally gravitate toward warm, secure women. It's simply in their nature. Kenneth Petty is a registered sex offender. When you join in marriage, you become one flesh. You have to understand that Nicki is spiritually his equal. Yes, she's physically beautiful, and yes, she's a celebrity, but that does not equal spiritual integrity.
Nicki addressed fans who brought up Kenneth's attempted rape conviction by replying to them on social media, saying he was 15, she was 16, in a relationship.
It was a lie. It wasn't true. We both were 16. We were never in a relationship. I just felt woman to woman. I was wrong of her. You have 150-something million followers on. They all believed it.
You've ruined everything about what your brand could be. Again, you're never going to stand a chance when you're with a man who pulls a knife at rape point. You know, and you're never going to stay a molester. a registered sex offender who wasn't even, you're never going to stand a chance with John Q. Public, because there's only one thing worse than touching children and pulling knives, and that's murder. By the way, he did go to jail for manslaughter.
One thing that I find particularly interesting about this whole Nicki Minaj situation, specifically her erratic TikTok comments. Do you guys remember when Kenneth Petty's victim, Jennifer Hough, came forward and sat down on a talk show and talked about what Kenneth Petty had done to her in 1994, got him ultimately convicted of attempted R-word. People originally started digging into Kenneth Petty and who Kenneth Petty was, and people started to realize that he was a convicted SO. Nicki started to try to discredit her husband's victim on social media, one of the biggest social media platforms on many social media apps. She accused Jennifer of wanting their money, which is absolutely crazy because all this happened in 1994, long before Nicki Minaj was Nicki Minaj. Like, very manipulative things to try to discredit Jennifer. Jennifer had really just been minding her business for all of these years, and people started to talk about her because Kenneth Petty didn't register as a SO when he moved to California, and he got in trouble for that. And then people started to dig into the case. They discovered he violently attempted to R-word Jennifer when she was 16 years old. But then Jennifer went and sat down on a talk show, and she exposed the hell out of Nicki Minaj. Jennifer accused Nicki and her people of stalking her and her family. She accused Nicki, Kenneth, the Nicki Minaj camp of offering her money in exchange for clearing Kenneth's name. Jennifer detailed that she was harassed, stalked, was receiving threatening messages, threatening phone calls. So I'm going somewhere with this. Let me lay my plane, wheels are on the ground. What I'm trying to get at is, whenever Jennifer came out with those allegations against Nicki Minaj and the Barbs tried to do whatever they could to destroy Jennifer's character and reputation. So the media kind of took Jennifer's allegations, with a grain of salt. I personally don't feel like Jennifer's allegations were taken very seriously by the media as far as how Nicki and her camp were taking great measures to harass Jennifer and her family. And that was a few years ago. Here we are in present day. Nicki Minaj is openly, shamelessly, and proudly harassing a TikTok creator who reads blind items, which are public information. Nicki Minaj has always attacked people who she has deemed a threat in her eyes, be it publicly with other female rappers or in her personal life, seeing Jennifer as a threat to her good image and happiness and picture perfect marriage. And now Nicki Minaj sees a blind item TikTok creator as someone who is a threat to her reputation and character and happiness. The walls are caving in on Nicki, it seems. I think we all know why. Seeing that live stream this morning and realizing that there's a toddler in the home, Nicki got bigger things to worry about than the creators on TikTok. She's got bigger things to worry about. Like, not to be disrespectful, but Miss Girl, your husband is in mediation right now to settle a lawsuit with Jennifer Hough, his victim, because of the intimidation that went on. Because of you and your camp, allegedly. You do not have time for internet beef.
The answer, in my view, is simple. Spiritually, he is her equal. Spiritually, they're the same. Nicki publicly defended not only her convicted pedophile husband, but also her brother, who was convicted of raping an 11-year-old girl. She paid for his lawyers and even wrote a letter to the judge defending him. How can anyone defend a man who rapes a child? This is beyond comprehension. But that's who Nicki Minaj truly is, when you peel back the celebrity facade. To me, this isn't just about bad choices, it's about spiritual corruption. A person's true character is revealed by the people they protect, support, and align themselves with. Nicki has repeatedly aligned herself with predators while showing zero empathy for their victims. The innocent girls whose lives have been shattered and who will now require a lifetime of therapy, healing, and trust building. These victims may never be able to fully love, trust, or marry a man because of the trauma they've endured. Yet Nicki only seems to care about shielding her brother and husband from accountability. This isn't just a moral failing, it's spiritual bankruptcy. It's evil. People like this are far more dangerous than their flashy music videos or social media personas suggest. When you defend predators and minimize the pain of victims, you reveal that your soul is not aligned with goodness, justice, or truth. And that's exactly what the public doesn't seem to grasp about Nicki Minaj. Behind the wigs, the alter egos, and the bravado is a woman who is deeply corrupted at the core. No amount of chart-topping hits or fans can cover up the fact that she is spiritually compromised. And when you look at the kind of man she chose to marry, a man who mirrors her energy, you see the truth. Like attracts like. This is why, no matter how much money or fame she has, she still comes across as bitter, envious, and miserable. My uncle, not a blood relative, but my uncle through my aunt, exposed himself to me, fully erect, when I was around 9 or 10. I told my mom, and she brushed it off, saying he was just eccentric. She didn't protect me. My aunt and he got divorced, and that was the end of it. I still remember that day like it was yesterday. Honestly, I'm fairly certain my mom wouldn't have protected me, even if he had actually molested me. Nicki is like that. She's the type of woman who wouldn't protect her own daughter. There's a special place in hell for women like her, and she's definitely on her way there. Nicki's fans equated her speaking about people having the ability to exercise their faith with her being Christian. Nicki Minaj did attend the United Nations and gave remarks highlighting the persecution of Christians, particularly in Nigeria, and the importance of religious freedom. Her speech focused on raising awareness of genocide, human rights, and the plight of persecuted communities, which presented her as someone concerned with faith-based issues. However, in that speech, she never explicitly mentioned Jesus Christ or identified herself as a Christian. She spoke in broad terms about faith, persecution, and morality, but did not directly state her personal religious beliefs. The framing made her appear sympathetic to Christian causes without publicly connecting it to her own faith in Christ. So yes, while the UN appearance gave the impression of religious advocacy, it did not include a personal declaration of Christianity or allegiance to Jesus Christ. Nicki Minaj has a long history of provocative, sometimes polarizing behavior online, including social media rants, feuds, and highly sexualized posts that generate both attention and criticism. Appearing at the United Nations to speak on Christian persecution in Nigeria, while not declaring personal faith or mentioning Jesus Christ, can be read as a strategic public relations move. Given her explicitly sexual lyrics and provocative, often satanic performances, this type of PR is necessary to distance herself from being seen as someone who works against God, and to portray herself as more religious. But, as I said, she has never once declared Jesus Christ as her Lord and Savior. The UN appearance allowed her to shift public perception from being a controversial celebrity to someone who cares about serious global issues, gain credibility in contexts outside music, including philanthropy and activism, counteract negative narratives from prior online behavior, including her more provocative, sexually charged, or combative social media presence, align herself with morally and socially acceptable causes without making a personal religious declaration that could limit her audience or invite further scrutiny. This approach is fairly typical in celebrity PR. Taking a high-profile platform for a socially significant cause can soften public opinion, generate positive media coverage, and reframe the celebrity's image, even if the advocacy is selective or abstract rather than personally grounded. In Nicki's case, the UN appearance was symbolically powerful because it positioned her as socially conscious while leaving her spiritual or personal faith ambiguous, which fits her broader pattern of cultivating influence while maintaining flexibility in public perception. When you look at the sequence of events, it does appear that her UN speech may have been a preparatory step for appearing on a Christian-aligned platform like Turning Point USA. A lot of people online speculate that Nicki started to align with Republicans because she needs protection from Jay-Z, Roc Nation, and even Beyoncé. People say her aligning with Trump will grant her security from Roc Nation. That's nonsense. People don't know what they're talking about.
The great thing about Donald Trump being president is now we're forced to have the dialogue. And now we're having the conversation on a large scale. Mm-hmm. He's provided the platform for us to have the conversation.
And you think that's better? That we should be having a conversation?
Absolutely. That's why this is happening.
Beyonce and Jay-Z were seen having a seat at the table with Ivanka Trump, and it has got the internet in shambles.
Jay-Z and Beyoncé have been mingling with the Trumps long before Nicki aligned herself with Erika Kirk, and Nicki has been openly supporting Republicans since 2012. In my opinion, most of her issues with Jay-Z and Roc Nation stem from the fact that she never truly became a part of their inner circle and wasn't as popular as some of the other artists Jay-Z endorsed. That's typical narcissistic behavior. I spoke about this in my first video. The central issue in this title situation seems to stem from a misunderstanding of what she was owed. She felt entitled to $200 million from the sale of Tidal, not that she was promised $200 million contingent on a sale. Whatever her contract stipulated, combined with perceived shortcomings in promotion, clearly left her feeling shortchanged. Financially, it appears that the company's value and payouts were substantial. Calculations suggest that the company's sale netted around $300 million, Potentially a bit less, but in any case, she was not positioned to receive the largest share. Other stakeholders and employees would naturally receive their portions first. Even as a founder, entitlement doesn't automatically translate into the majority of a distribution. Besides, she wasn't the only artist signed, and she wasn't the biggest, so why was she expecting the largest payout? First and foremost, if these claims were entirely legitimate, she would have had the option to pursue legal action. All she does is rant online without taking substantive action, then claims that Roc Nation is after her. If she were genuinely concerned about them harming her, she could either pursue legal action or simply refrain from publicly discussing them. Ultimately, she is generating all this online noise to draw attention to her music, and, unsurprisingly, it appears to be working. If her focus had been solely on securing what was contractually due, such as proper financial compensation, much of this public attention could have been avoided.
I usually mind my business, but Nicki Minaj put out a tweet and said, "Don't stream Cardi album because Cardi album is full of evil spirits." While she's on the internet actively talking down, disrespecting a child, a 4-year-old, 5-year-old child. She talking about culture. But you want to say Cardi got evil spirits? Bitch, you are the evil spirit. The fuck? You was the same one talking about Megan mom. You go so... Bro, Nicki Minaj is so trifling of a bitch. She will go so low just to try to make herself prove a point or something. Like, I don't understand this hoe. Nicki Minaj is old and out of touch to the point where you're not even trying to compete on rap shit. Like, you just violate and you disrespectful, but you scary. That's the thing about it. She's so scary. Every time Cardi pressed her, she ran. Like, bro, Nicki is trash, bro. If you still a Nicki fan after this, bro, you just a trash human. I'm sorry, not sorry, but, bro, she continues to try to, like, manipulate racism. She try to manipulate the Bible just to try to make Cardi look bad when nobody sent for you, ho. Nobody sent for your old ass. Damn, this bitch bitter. Man, I have never in my life. And the funny shit is this how you know Nicki is the problem, because there was a problem with Lil' Kim. When Lil' Kim was passing the torch to Nicki, it was a problem there. Then you look up and you see Cardi come in the game. She giving Nicki hella respect, kissing Nicki ass damn near, saying like, Nicki, I love Nicki growing up, da-da-da-da. And here come this bitch Nicki, hating on Cardi, hating on Lotto, hating on Ice Spice. She tried to act like she liked Ice Spice for just a quick second, but nope, she couldn't do it. Nah, bitch. Hell no. Like, Nicki is annoying, bro. Like, she's the mean bitch at the playground that don't want to have no friends and don't want nobody else to be friends. Like, weird.
Make it your business to follow your dreams, because one day you will wake up and look around and your dreams will be gone, and then you will be mad at somebody, but be mad at your self. Thank you.
Right. Now she looking like the old better rapper and shit. Took a long time, but the world will come back around. That karma will get back around to your ass.
The biggest issue with Nicki is that she aged out and became bitter. She's upset that there are younger rappers taking up space. The public is tired of her antics, so she needs to carve out a new way to stay relevant, because one thing narcissists crave is attention, whether it's good or bad. It is reasonable to view Nicki Minaj's recent actions as a strategic pivot rather than isolated events. The rap industry is heavily youth-driven, and while Nicki remains influential, she is no longer positioned as the dominant cultural force she once was. Many artists at her stage of longevity begin to look beyond music to preserve relevance and authority. Her appearances at the United Nations speaking on Christian persecution, and later at Turning Point USA, signal a shift away from entertainment toward public commentary, activism, and cultural influence. These platforms elevate her as a speaker on moral and societal issues rather than as a performer, which aligns more with a political or ideological influencer role than a music career. This shift also conveniently reframes her public image after years of controversy, online rants, and criticism surrounding her personal associations. Moving into faith-based and political spaces allows her to reach a new, highly engaged audience while distancing herself from the hypersexualized persona that defined much of her earlier career. This kind of celebrity evolution is not unusual. Many public figures leverage fame, earned in entertainment, to transition into political or cultural influence when their primary industry no longer offers the same dominance. In that context, Nicki's recent choices can be seen less as spontaneous belief expression and more as a calculated attempt to secure long-term relevance by repositioning herself as a political and cultural voice, rather than solely a rapper. These endeavors can also be extremely lucrative, which adds another layer to understanding her recent moves. Political activism and high-profile appearances are no longer just ideological, they are often financially strategic. Beyoncé was allegedly paid $11 million to appear at Kamala Harris's rally, illustrating how celebrity involvement in politics can function as a highly profitable business decision. In that context, political engagement offers not only visibility and influence, but also substantial financial incentives that rival or exceed traditional entertainment income. Viewed this way, Nicki Minaj's actions appear less about seeking protection from people within the same industry circles, and more about making calculated moves to secure long-term relevance, income, and cultural positioning. By transitioning into political and ideological spaces, she taps into a new market where attention, controversy, and loyalty are monetized differently but very effectively. Rather than reacting out of fear or desperation, her recent trajectory aligns more closely with a strategic career pivot, one that leverages fame into sustained influence and financial opportunity beyond the lifespan of a rap career. Which brings us to Erika Kirk. Many people online were shocked to see these two together. They asked what these two could possibly have in common. The answer? More than you would think. So who is Erika Kirk?
Have you looked into Erika Kirk at all?
I have. It's very interesting. So a lot of people aren't trusting her. She won a pageant back in 2012. She was Miss Arizona. And it's pretty interesting that pageant, who owned it? Trump did. So she knew Trump way before Charlie Kirk. Okay, you could say that's a coincidence, but she started a charity when she was 17, working with military officials, did missions in Romania, and people were saying that the whole mission was linked to trafficking. Also, if you look into her parents, her mom, Lori, has a multitude of companies, and one of them being E3. And E3 Tech Group, actually, they specialize in EMPs. Tell me why she did secret missions with the government in Iraq. And then her father as well wrote books for government, strategic plans. He has a book called Business Intelligence for Government Officials. All these different things in the government have heavy ties. So again, I think that they have more ties than what they're putting on to.
The new Epstein emails just cracked open something wild, and somehow Erika Kirk's name is right in the center of it. The same Erika who was crowned Miss Arizona 2012 under Trump's pageant brand and later became the polished trad wife of Turning Point USA's late founder, Charlie Kirk. But what if I told y'all this wasn't just a coincidence? Because these new documents from the House Oversight Committee straight up show Jeffrey Epstein name-dropping Trump, talking about the girls, and bragging about his access to beauty pageant recruits, one of them being Erika France v. Kirk. And y'all, when those redacted names started circulating online, people connected the dots. The timelines line up exactly with Trump's Miss USA pageant, the same one Erika competed in. A fan on X even wrote, "The craziest thing about Erika Kirk is that she was groomed through Trump's pageantry network before making the connections at TPUSA that got her in touch with Charlie." Even weirder, Erika's old nonprofit Romanian Angels wasn't just a charity. Locals in Constanța accused it of trafficking children under the guise of missionary work. That's the same trafficking model tied to international rings in Guatemala and the UK that Epstein's associates were rumored to use. That's not random, that's access. So when people on X started saying Epstein hired Erika Kirk to get close to Trump, they weren't pulling it out of nowhere. The infrastructure, the timing, the Trump connection, it's all overlapping.
Erika Kirk was introduced to Charlie Kirk through Donald Trump. She had been procured for Donald Trump's pageants. She won Miss Arizona or something. She was literally a registered actress and starred in a reality TV show, a romance one at that. He met her on a trip to Israel. Charlie met her on one of these wall humping trips. So the Israeli connections, and then J.D. Sharp tells me... What was she doing in Israel? Well, she was on a pilgrimage. Okay. Yeah. And then I just learned, J.D. Sharp, Jason Dick, the founder of Uncensored AI, just told me that her dad, Erika Kirk's dad, is one of the founders or creators of Raytheon Israel Ltd. Raytheon Israel creates the weapon systems and defense systems like the Iron Dome, and soaks up trillions of, collectively trillions of U.S. taxpayer dollars over the course of the last, however many decades, billions of dollars annually.
From what I understand, Erika Kirk's father formed Raytheon Israel's division and was the former chairperson / president. I believe he's retired now, but he was actively involved in that particular operation.
That's ridiculous. All of these connections. They had the custody of Charlie Kirk's body in the custody of J.D. Vance aboard some private jet, going to God knows where. And within 24 hours, Erika Kirk is releasing this propaganda video of Charlie Kirk's hand and the rings and the I love you and the crying and the sobbing.
That young man, I forgive him.
She's solidifying the narrative that he's guilty. No matter what about a court appearance, anything else, that resonated with every Christian because they're supposed to be forgiving.
Yeah.
And that just subliminally, subconsciously, or very overtly put, yep, he's guilty, he did it, he's responsible, but Erika forgives him. And now she's the champion of TPUSA to come rushing in, building all of these other extensions and satellite, different clubs all over the place.
Well, they're basically trying to build her up to be the next president. They're essentially seeing like, hey, this is a woman that we could set up maybe in 8 to 12 years.
Yeah. Well, they then will be able to just solidify this Judeo-Christian, alliance, and that Israel was great and that Charlie loved the Jews and all these things, while completely disregarding the 5 weeks, leading up to his death, where he began to actually ask about this and point out this occupation.
I gotta be careful the way I say this. They're gonna try to ethnically cleanse Gaza.
Yep.
I mean, that's, and I don't use that term lightly, okay? They're talking about basically removing 2.5 million people from there, okay? And honestly, they have a mandate to go seek justice and revenge. They do. This idea that they need to have a truce or a peace treaty, that's morally crap after you see women and children be burned alive and dragged through the streets. But there are some serious questions here, Patrick. And let me tell you, my pattern recognition over the last 5 years has become pretty sharp. COVID, Maui fires, Epstein. When I see a story and it doesn't click, our guts are usually right. So I've been to Israel many times. The whole country's a fortress. When I first heard this story, I still had the same gut instinct that I did initially. I find this very hard to believe. I've been to that Gaza border. You cannot go 10 feet without running into a 19-year-old with an AR-15 or an automatic machine gun that's an IDF soldier. Right? The whole country is surveilled. And so let me just kind of go through this. We don't talk about Israeli politics very often, and most Americans don't know this. The last 9 months, Israel was on the brink of civil war. It's not an exaggeration. This judicial stuff, there were hundreds of thousands of Israelis taking to the streets because Bibi Netanyahu was basically redefining the Israeli constitution. That's not an exaggeration, right? He said the judicial branch has too much power. There were protests planned this week against Netanyahu, where they anticipated tens of thousands of people to take to the streets. That's all gone, Patrick. Netanyahu now has an emergency government and a mandate to lead. I'm not willing to go so far that saying that Netanyahu knew or there was intelligence here, but I think some questions need to be asked. Was there a stand down order? Was there a stand down order? 6 hours? I don't believe it. Israel's the size of New Jersey. When I took a helicopter ride from Jerusalem to the Gaza border, it's 45 minutes. Wow. 6 hours. They're live streaming the killing of Jews. Did somebody in the government say stand down? That is a legitimate non-conspiracy question. The whole country is the IDF. The whole country is. Yeah. And you're trying to tell me that they're going to concerts and kibbutzes and schools of decoupling to do? Because Jewish donors have been the #1 funding mechanism of radical, open border, neoliberal, quasi-Marxist policies, cultural institutions, and nonprofits. This is a beast created by secular Jews. And now it's coming for Jews, and they're like, what on earth happened? And it's not just the colleges. It's the nonprofits, it's the movies, it's Hollywood, it's all of it. It's like time for you guys to wake up and say no more. Draw a line in the sand. I don't care if you hate me.
Hey, this is not a grieving woman. Well, and we had a grief counselor on here. We had a body language expert on here. Both of them said, the grief counselor said, this is not grief. The everybody grieves differently thing. I know that. I have seen plenty of women grieve in my lifetime. I have seen that personally in my life. People that I know watching women grieve. They do. They all grieve differently. But this is not grief.
Exactly. And whatever it is, considering her backstory, it's extremely strange. And then obviously embracing Vance, embracing Trump, making the comments about Vance like she did, like she was at least she didn't grab Vance's ass, which again, why is she even thinking about that under those circumstances? That Jeff Epstein account on X, he took the video of Erika Kirk where she was backstage at an event, and she was obviously, it looked like she was putting in drops to potentially make herself cry, to make herself look like she cares a little bit. Again, it looks more and more likely that Charlie Kirk was effectively living the Truman Show.
Erika Kirk appears to be moving through her own modernized version of the 5 stages of grief: denial, anger, marketing, world tour, and finally, run for Congress. Ever since Charlie's passing, she hasn't paused for a moment. It's been a nonstop cycle of campaigns, public appearances, political interviews, truly a masterclass in perpetual visibility. She's girl bossing her way through widowhood like it's a brand relaunch, not a personal loss. And of course, We are repeatedly reminded, unprompted, that she definitely had nothing to do with his death. Absolutely nothing says emotional processing like constant self-exoneration paired with a media blitz. She also repeatedly treats us to a series of interesting facial expressions, apparently meant to signal that she is absolutely fine, definitely not crazy, and completely in control. The insistence is almost reassuring in itself. After all, nothing convinces the public that someone isn't crazy quite like the relentless need to prove it through performative expressions and theatrical composure. So what brings these two together, you ask? What do two spiritually bankrupt individuals possibly have in common? A kindred spirit, of course. When you have two people who show a remarkable indifference to the well-being of the most vulnerable beings on the planet, children, you'd be surprised how much they can accomplish together. With government backing, the sky truly is the limit. And before anyone gets confused, this video isn't an attack on the Republican Party, nor is it a defense of the Democratic Party. If you understand even the basics of social hierarchy, you already know the truth. Neither party cares about you. There's a very small group at the top pulling the strings, and everyone else is reduced to numbers, interchangeable, expendable, forgotten. We don't matter. Celebrities aren't powerful, they're visible pawns. Their fame doesn't free them, it marks them. The world is a stage.